Hi, I'm Darlene Carman.
And I'm Doug Carman.
Welcome to the show. Caitlin Freeman, pastry chef for the Blue Bottle Coffee Company, creates desserts that are works of art. Her book, Modern Art Desserts, is a combination of dessert cookbook with step-by-step recipes and a crash course in modern art. Hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me. Thank you.
Now, you operated a cafe at the San Jose Museum of Modern Art for 4 years. So tell us what's happening now with the cafe.
It's the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, and which just closed in June for a big 2.5-year expansion.
Wow.
So with the closure also went our cafe. At the cafe we made all of our desserts were inspired by works of art that were on display in the museum. And I wrote this book, which was only about a quarter of what we had done in our tenure at the museum. So for much of the time, we weren't documenting anything we had done. We did a lot of one-off presentations. You know, there was an opening, so we did something inspired by a piece, but we only did it once. So we're taking this time to do 3 things. First, we're going back and we're archiving everything that we did, which is just kind of being smart, trying to remember and document all of the recipes. You know, photograph everything we have done, which the book was a great chance to really get down the stories behind everything. So we feel like it's a great opportunity to go back and revisit all the things we'd done before. The Mondrian cake, which is the cover of the book, and quite possibly the most famous thing I will ever make in my entire lifetime.
So now you're taking
it. You know, people are super bummed out that they can't get it now because honestly, I just feel like I don't really want to. Blue Bottle, who is just the company I work for, we have a lot of retail locations, and everyone's asked, you know, why not serve the Mondrian cake in the coffee shops? It just doesn't feel right. You know, that was so much about that place, that building, that museum, the art that was on the walls. It sort of feels out of place to do it in one of our shops.
Not having the museum there.
A little bit. Yes, but we've decided that we're going to start doing that cake as a mail order item. On the book tour, I discovered it freezes really, really well, and it ships really well. So we're starting pretty soon, launching it on our website, and we'll be able to ship it all across the United States and in Canada.
Wow.
And then we're also planning for the future. So, you know, we're looking at the past.
Future at the museum?
Future at the museum.
That's one of the questions I had. Would you be going back to the museum after their renovation and expansion, or you're obviously then going to be moving on and trying other things?
Of course.
Also.
Yeah.
But are you going to go back, plans to get back into the museum?
That's our expectation.
Oh, great.
And what's great is then now we're going to have a museum that's almost triple the size of what it is now.
Nice.
And this incredible amount of art that we get to work with. So, you know, whereas it was kind of a big, you know.
It's going to be huge.
A lot more desserts to make.
Exactly. But it was amazing to have this museum full of art, and now it's going to be overwhelming. And, you know, we want to be able to open with a bang. So we're really working with the curators and the conservators to see all the work that's going to be in the museum, and really looking forward to.
It's going to be huge.
It's going to be exciting. Yeah.
Now, you're a self-taught baker with a degree in art.
Yes.
So how did you start merging the two?
So as an art student at UC Santa Cruz, I was a photography major, but we would go up to the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art quite often, just as part of our coursework. And it was on one of those trips that I saw this one painting called Display Cakes by Wayne Thiebaud. He's still alive, he's 93, but in the 60s he was doing really kind of pop art paintings, oil paintings of kind of everyday objects. He really did a lot of cake paintings, confections, he did shoes, he did some lipsticks, you know, just beautiful, thick with paint. But this one cake painting just captured my everything. I mean, it was this, I loved that his cakes were, they were pastel and sweet, but they were simple, and there was a sophistication. There was a lot of brown tones, like the pink wasn't sweet and girly and pink. It had this kind of like sophistication and richness in it. So I saw these paintings, or this painting, and fell in love. But I was a photography student, so I didn't really know what I was going to do with that. So I graduated from college, and I wasn't really thinking much about art because I had to pay my bills. And then a few years later, there was a big Wayne Thiebaud retrospective at the Legion of Honor in San Francisco. And I went, and the one painting I'd loved was just a modest little painting of 3 cakes.
Yeah.
And there I was in these, enormous paintings of cakes and confections. And I remember standing in front of his largest cake piece called Cakes and saying, this is what I'm going to do with my life. And, I made this big declaration, but I didn't know what that actually meant.
Yeah.
I was, I wanted a life in cake, but I didn't know what that meant. I didn't think I wanted to be a baker. I thought I wanted to do a photo project to learn about, composition and really sort of what Wayne Thiebaud did, which was to use these cylindrical objects as a study of form, shading, shadows.
Well, you brought some of your posters, and
I did.
That you have of your work. Let's see how you mastered, how you matched up your desserts with the artist. That was what's so fascinating.
Yeah.
These were in your book.
Matisse.
These were part of your book.
Yeah. So
So,
this
yeah.
is a Matisse piece called, well, the shortened name is Allenstein. It's a long French name, but we shortened it to Allenstein. And it's a painting of Gertrude Stein's nephew, Allenstein. And there was this large show called the Steins Collect, and it was all about, all of the beautiful work that the Stein family, Gertrude Stein, and her brother had collected. And they had a lot of Matisse. And this painting really jumped out at us for the pink. We're
Yes.
kind of girly girls, and we love the pink. And I really love his sweet fisherman's sweater.
Looks wool.
And
Looks like
yeah,
wool.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the texture of his curly hair.
Curly hair.
So we started to think about kind of how we could take these elements and turn them into a dessert if we thought about it elementally. So the first thing I thought about was, okay, his curly hair. That looks like chocolate. So we really sort of, that was
Chocolatey.
where we started. And then we thought, okay, what can we do for the pink? And so we came up with this strawberry gelée. And then, I love his long, long neck. And so we thought about kind of a shape that could reference his long neck. And we ended up doing a creme fraiche parfait, which is a little like
Oh, yummy.
an unchurned ice cream. You make the creme anglaise, which is the ice cream base, and then you fold whipped cream in. So it's this light,
Can't go wrong
delicious
with that.
frozen dessert. Yeah. And then because I loved the sweater so much, as part of, because so much of what we did, wasn't just about what they were eating, but the whole experience.
Yes.
So I knitted these beautiful little coasters that
Love that idea.
the dessert would be
So
presented
among your other
sweater.
talents, you knit.
Well, I'm a pretty novice knitter, but I just had to do a little square. However, throughout the summer, they were always getting thrown away or stolen, so I'd gotten myself into a pickle where I was just knitting these dinky little coasters all summer long.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Let's see the
so-
next one, yeah.
Next
Here,
one.
okay.
She can set it right down there. Doug.
Oh, okay.
So this is, just a couple years ago, the SF MoMA did a big showing of this man named Mark Bradford's work. He is Los Angeles-based.
It's a collage, right?
Yeah, it's a collage. He takes a lot of found objects and papers, and a lot of these are permanent wave papers. His mother owned a beauty parlor, and he was fascinated with the little permanent wave papers. So he would build these enormous collages out of all of these found, you can see there's sort of part of an AT&T poster. And when we were looking, we were standing there, we got a sneak peek before the show opened, and I couldn't shake the feeling that they looked like Velveeta cheese. So we started thinking about, kind of cheese and how that could work. And, a lot of times people would complain, so we mostly made sweets at our cafe. And they wanted something savory. So we realized sort of the benefit of having a cheese and crackers plate.
Sure.
So we started playing with different cheeses that could make up the shapes and colors and textures. And then we did some buttermilk crackers and a little apricot paste and a little membrio quince
And all
paste.
of that's in your cookbook. All the recipes for this.
Yeah,
The buttermilk. I wouldn't know how to do that.
Yeah, they're a great recipe that actually came from my friend Nicole, who has a restaurant called State Bird Provisions.
I read it in the book where everybody loved those buttermilk crackers.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
just crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So delicious. And we had a little custom cutter made. So we went down and we measured the size of the papers, and then we had a custom cutter made.
Details.
Yeah.
The details
Yeah.
that you do. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's see the next one. Say, oh, I love this one.
So this is a photograph by Cindy Sherman.
And that is Cindy.
That is Cindy Sherman. So she takes all self-portraits, but she doesn't want them to be known as self-portraits. She dresses herself up in all kinds of different ways, and this was from a series that she did of all clowns, which I have to say are terrifying. And I was a huge Cindy Sherman fan in college, but when the clown photos came up, I was like, that's it. I can't go there.
Well, her earlier photographs were black and white.
Yeah,
right?
she did sort of her most famous was these untitled film stills. And she, you know, it's kind of this glamorous.
This is a far cry from black and white.
And this is where she lost me. So when they were doing a big Cindy Sherman retrospective, I was outright declared, I am not doing anything based on a clown.
Oh.
So we got started and we were working with the curator of the show, Erin O'Toole, and she had brought up this photograph. And what she thought was interesting was the pink liquid. And she thought, you know, that's where you could go that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Like, oh, pink liquid, you know, a bubblegum soda could be fun for something.
Bubblegum soda.
Bubblegum soda. So we made our own bubblegum soda by muddling Bazooka Joe bubblegum with sugar and then adding water.
Wow.
And so my collaborator, Leah, found these amazing little bottles that were very similar to her bottles. And then we thought, you know, what would we do with bubblegum soda? And I thought, oh, an ice cream float, of course.
Sure.
So we did just a vanilla ice cream for the clown's face and a raspberry sorbet for the lips and nose. And then we found this amazing stuff called disco glitter. And it's edible glitter.
Edible.
So what you would do is we would sprinkle it on, and you know,
the
her
hat.
hat is
Sure.
very disco glitter.
Oh, I like sparklies.
So as soon as you would pour the sparkling water on, all the disco glitter would sort of float to the top, and it was this amazing experience. And what was great was just before we were launching this soda, as Cindy Sherman was at the museum for the install, she came and had one of my ice cream floats, and she took pictures with her iPhone. And I thought,
great.
I'm just like Cindy Sherman. I take pictures of my food with my iPhone too.
That is great.
Yeah. And so finally,
Michael Jackson there.
this is a Jeff Koons piece called Michael Jackson and Bubbles. It's one of those pieces at the museum that when you walk in the room, that's what you see. So this was up.
It's large, really large.
It's large, and it's gold, and it's Michael Jackson, and it's a monkey. You know that you can't not see it in the room. And so I knew when they were putting it up for their 75th anniversary exhibition that we had to do something. Michael Jackson had just recently died. And you know, it felt like this thing that we had to do, but we had to do right. Like you can't go easy on this. You know, it's so ostentatious and so iconic. We tried a few things. At first I really wanted to do a white chocolate covered banana with gold leaf on it.
Oh, the monkey, of course.
Yes, I was thinking about chimpanzees and
Naturally, banana
it was
monkey.
the most anatomically correct banana I had ever seen, and I knew I could not sell that at the shop. So I started thinking about Bubbles, because the monkey's name was Bubbles, and thinking about sort of what could be Bubbles. And we thought about marshmallows kind of floating on something. So, and you know, since it's all gold and white, I wanted it to be that color palette. But the whole thing didn't come together until I found these Turkish teacups.
That's beautiful.
And yeah, they were really kind of junky looking. You know, they're fake gold.
Yeah.
but people stole those like nobody's business. And I you know, it was such a pain to order them. And, you know, the guys were really nice and so excited that we were making this crazy dessert using their cups. But I just imagine everyone all summer who would get these home that they'd stolen from the museum and think, this is junk.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was so perfect for what we were doing. And we did a little gold leaf on top.
That is awesome.
It adds, they're elegant, and it added to
Yeah,
represent it.
yeah.
So I can see that it translated the elegance
that went over really,
of the
really well.
sculpture.
It was, and you know, people have, until the day we closed, they would come up and they would come up for that. But since we only served desserts for the time the artwork is on display in the museum, you know, it came down after not too long, and that remains the most requested dessert that we have taken off
wonderful.
the menu.
I wanted to see some of your tools here. Now, this one looks to me like it would cut layers, and you cut a lot of layers in your
We
book.
do.
So.
You need to
Oh, dear.
do that a little bit.
Oh, dear.
So this is called a bun divider. I'm not exactly sure what.
So it's adjustable. Yeah, you can adjust the different
An
and they're
accordion
all
pizza
perfect.
wheel.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
I'm not really sure what people usually use it for, but it's
Ceramics.
well,
Be great.
they sell it. They sell it in the restaurant supply store, but it's perfect for making a mondrian cake.
Wow.
Because you can make perfect layers that are perfect.
For
Yeah.
the house repairs, right?
Yes.
For the
that's,
house repairs.
No.
No? No?
For frosting
No.
a cake.
Oh, for frosting the
Oh.
cake. That's
Yeah,
huge.
for making perfect sides.
Wow.
But
Wow.
we'll get to this later because I don't actually want perfect sides on my cake, and we'll talk about it.
Wow. Well, we're just about there, actually. But now this I recognize. It's
a grater.
Yeah, kind of. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
got a fancy
nutmeg
name.
and-
It's called a microplane.
Yes, of
So
course.
the lore is that it was a woman who needed to zest her lemons, so she went out to her husband's tool chest and got a planer.
Sure.
Oh,
And
Why didn't I
hence
think of
one
that?
of the most handy kitchen implements was born. We use it at home for grating cheese, for zesting all kinds of lemons, and we actually use it for shaving chocolate. It's got lots of uses.
Well, so we're ready to see you frost a cake. How about
Super.
that? And you've got like 4 layers here.
Yeah, we have 4 layers. I, in sort of Julia Child fashion,
Of
prepared
course.
this, you know, so that for the magic of TV. And I split the cake into 4 layers. And what we do is, they're fresh cakes and they're delicious, but I like to add a little extra flavor and moistness by using simple syrup. So for this one I did actually, you know, we mix it up quite a bit. But this one I did a bergamot mint simple syrup in it.
Wow.
And then we have a strawberry buttercream. So each layer is cake, simple syrup, and then I did strawberry jam, strawberry buttercream.
And
And
now
so-
that syrup, let's get back to that syrup because I have never used syrup I've made holes and poured stuff,
Very
but I've
Italian.
never used you use the syrup regularly
Yeah,
to
yeah.
add flavor and moisture, and
Yeah.
it's basically what, sugar and water. It's in your book, but I mean,
it's a typical simple syrup, and we do half sugar, half water, and then you can do whatever flavor you
Wow.
want. So we did sugar syrup, and then for this one, my husband, who likes to make cocktails, wanted to make a mint simple syrup. So we found this amazing bergamot mint. So we made the simple syrup, and then we steeped the bergamot mint, which has a nice kind of grapefruit flavor.
now you're not using a whole lot of syrup. How much would
no,
like
we
a
just
1/4
do-
of a cup for a layer or something like that?
I say in the book, I dip a little pastry brush in and I paint it.
And you paint it.
Yeah.
I can relate
So
to that.
it's really the opposite of what you do.
You have a unique technique in how to frost cakes.
Yes.
And I've been anxiously waiting to see that.
I know, I've
And
been
I've
tempting you with
drooling
this.
over this cake.
So my thought about making cakes, so all of this is, these cakes are based purely on these Wayne Thiebaud paintings, which are super unctuous. They're very painterly. But he really uses his paint like frosting. And here I am trying to use my frosting like paint. And
Yeah.
I've really, really looked at his artwork and trying to figure out how to get the texture that he does with his paint, which is kind of funny. And
Yeah.
again, sort of the opposite of what you do. You know, you're using food to paint with,
And
you know, and I'm here trying to use my food as paint.
that's clever.
So
So
it's
let's
all
do that.
about texture. And so what I'm trying to do is get a very oil paint-like texture in my buttercream. And all of that is really getting it to the right temperature.
Now, this part, I read your book, so the pre-crumb part, has that been done? Is this the stage it's at now?
Yes, yeah.
Explain why you do that, why you put a little bit on first instead of just a big old glob the way I'm used to doing it. Why do you do a little bit first? It's kind of like a teaser.
It's called a crumb coat.
Crumb coat.
And it's what we do so that when you're frosting the cake, you don't get crumbs all on your beautiful outside of your cake.
You can do this for any frosting.
Exactly, yeah. It's a really great way to just contain everything so that when you're doing the outside, which you're really just trying to make beautiful, you're not worried about pesky crumbs coming out and marring.
So the crumbs are not going to be released anymore. They're cemented in there, so to speak.
They are cemented in there. You know, before I became a baker, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And one thing I really thought I'd be great at is the screeder, which is the person who, when they're laying concrete, makes it perfectly flat and even. And I kind of became obsessed with that becoming my job. But then I realized I didn't really want to be in construction.
This is more fun.
But this is not unlike that, you know, just trying to come up with something perfect. So for this, you know, I like to go through and just have
Now, I got to ask you why you're using the little guy instead of the big guy.
Yeah, this gives me a little more control and finesse.
More control.
That's, you know,
because, you know, why rush it?
Exactly.
It's fun. The anticipation.
Then the faster you get it done, the
quicker you get to eat it, the quicker you get to serve it to
can
done.
get to it to eat it.
So that's a good thick layer.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, typically when people are frosting cakes, and, you know, I don't think my technique is all that much different from what people normally do. It's just that I'm not necessarily interested in a perfectly flat cake. In fact, that's not what I want at all. I want it to look really frosting-y. I want it to look like Wayne Thiebaud. I want it to have sort of the quality that you want to dig your finger into it. You know, I don't want it to be this perfect, hard to, you know, it's too perfect to eat. You so often hear people, oh, that's too beautiful. I couldn't possibly eat it. So, you know, I'm just kind of piling it on.
We got 5 minutes, so just take your time, pile away.
Fantastic. And, you know, whenever I teach, I've had 2 girls who've worked with me the whole time at the museum. And when I taught both of them how to frost cakes, I really asked them to look at the painting and just see sort of how they would frost it, you know, how I could teach them what I do. But I really wanted to know how they interpreted how Wayne Thiebaud put that paint on his canvas. But you know, there's some technical aspects that you really have to think about because, you know, you could be very whimsical and plop the frosting on, but it does still have to look like a cake and not look like a big mess.
Can you smell that?
This is buttercream, or?
This is a strawberry buttercream.
So smooth, and it has the texture almost of like whipping cream, but not quite thicker. It's thicker than whipping cream.
So
a little bit like my Greek yogurt.
Yeah. So once you have all the frosting on, the buttercream on, you know, start to flatten it out. I like to think a lot about having vertical confidence, which is kind of the best way to have a nice stately cake. You know, because you can have it look very fun and whimsical, but if it looks like a big sloppy mess, you know, you've missed the point. So there is this balance between kind of having perfect, which I want it to be a perfect cake, but I want it to be fun and I want it to look like it was done effortlessly. So
you cheat, of course. If you have a little saggy cake, you put a little extra frosting, like most of us do, right?
Oh no, I never have a saggy
No.
cake. Mine are always,
They're always perfect.
So I'm going through and just trying to make it as perfect as possible, having vertical confidence and really thinking about my palette knife or my offset spatula being straight up and down. So that way when I look at the cake, it's nice and straight and up and down. I mean, I've made thousands of cakes in my career, so it's pretty easy to have vertical confidence. But, you know, so
See, look
here
at the
I
patterns.
am
Look at that. Look at
kind
that.
of going through
And
and just trying to
Pattern.
yeah.
add, you know, that
that little pattern you've got. Oh, look at that. The knife's doing it. And your effort.
Exactly.
You're
but
like,
I kind of wobble it this way, which is everything against what I used to want to do in cakes. I wanted them to have perfect sides, and you would kind of kill yourself, and you'd use tools like this to make it perfect. But with Wayne Thiebaud, it was so much about like that texture and that, Also with him,
we have 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I want to see that magic come.
I want to lick the bowl.
So
there you have
now
it over.
I'm going to just put a big heaping
Oh,
glop
no.
on top.
Now we're talking. Do you have real strawberries puree in there, or?
Yeah. So what we do is we macerate strawberries. So we just put them with some sugar and let all the juices come out. And then we use the juice because we don't want it to look super pulpy.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing here is just kind of easing it out because Wayne Thiebaud's paintings all had these amazing, if you look closely, it's like this bright, vibrant electric blues and reds as the shading, which is so incredible. And so what I'm trying to do is just get these really defined sides.
And we are down to our last minute. Now you keep on working. When you're done, I'm sure the crew will want to have a bite. But anyway, I've enjoyed this show so much that I would love to see some more desserts and your modern art concept together. Can you come back for the next show?
Absolutely, we just need to break to have some cake.
We just have a break and then we're Great.
Well, that's wonderful.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll carry on. Thanks for watching the show, and check the website for details. There's some details on there you might want to know. So thanks for watching the show, and watch again. Oh, that smells so good. Oh, man.